first bowl game of the bowl season here with the Bahamas bowl game. I always wish that I could have gone to, yet it always seems to be kind of some bottom dwelling teams. So we have a couple of interesting teams here. As you can see, our fans are thinking the Red Hawks have got it from Miami, Ohio. I personally have UAB and Jared has Miami, so I'll let Jared speak to a little bit about Miami.
All right, on Miami, this is very much just a homer pick for me. There wasn't a whole lot of football expertise going into this one. They've had another pretty average year. This Miami program is always kind of up and down. Interesting place geographically to recruit football players to as well. Kind of in the middle of nowhere down in Southwest Ohio. So this team spread, I think, on this game is 10.5. I definitely like them on that number, but UAB is going to be a tough test for them, but I'm taking them anyway. Go Red Hawks.
Yeah, well, the New Age Sports, the New Age College Football Instagram page actually agrees with you. So 60% of our fans that voted there say they've got Miami, Ohio as well. UAB, from my perspective, you've got the top rushing running back in all of college football there with Dwayne McBride.
1,700 yards.
Yep, he's a stud. So personally, just looking at Miami, Ohio, how they stack up on defense, numbers-wise, they're kind of middle of the pack against the run, but they haven't seen anybody like this, so I just don't see them being able to withstand that rushing attack of UAB. You've got the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl. So Jared and I both have UTSA in this one, the Conference USA champions for the first time this year. But our Instagram followers actually have put Troy forward with 67% of the vote going towards them. Jared, anything you've seen from UTSA that you wanted to comment on?
I think just UTSA in general as a program has been building the last few years. They had a decent year well. I just kind of like where that program's headed. They're headed in the right direction, I think. So we'll see if they I think they can get it done against Troy in this bowl game this year.
Yeah, so Troy has had some success over the last 5 or 6 years. I know for sure they've been competing in the Sun Belt. UTSA, a little bit newer of a program in the FBS college football, but over the last couple of years have really showed out. And a lot of it has to do with the guy in the big picture there, number 0, Frank Harris. He's a 6th-year quarterback. Because of some eligibility stuff, he's actually coming back for a 7th year next year. So, I mean, you've got Grandpa over there, but he slings that thing. He's got some high-powered receivers, foremost being Zachary Franklin. But yeah, he likes to put the ball downfield. He gets it out early and often. Troy does have a strong defense, so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out between the two of them. And then they've got a pretty strong running game as well at Troy with a young guy there, Toten the Rock and Kamani Vidal. But yeah, this should shape up to be a pretty good game. Again, another pretty cool place to play, Orlando, Florida.
It's an early start. Good early start.
Yep.
Good early game.
Yeah, and Duluth Trading Company, right? They've got the lumberjack underwear up there. So
great underwear.
Yeah. Well, anyways, yeah. So tune into this game if you get a chance. It should be a good one, a good offense, strong offense versus strong defense matchup.
A lot of grandpas playing quarterback in college football this year.
Yeah, there are. I don't think anybody's got Frank here, especially next year when he goes into year number 7. But yeah, he gives Stetson Bennett a run for his money. Moving on to one of the less stellar locations for a bowl game, you've got Mobile, Alabama, and the Lending Tree Bowl. If you had, I can't imagine anyone having any reason to watch this game. You've got Southern Miss, who finished 6-6, so all credit to them being bowl eligible. But you've also got Rice, who finished 5-7 and is in a bowl game based on their academic prestige. That being that there wasn't enough 6-win teams in college football this year. Well, apart from, I will say, there's some controversy attached. So Army actually finished 6-6 this season. However, they did not have enough FBS wins to qualify. So really scraping the bottom of the barrel here to get Rice in here at 5-7 and taking on Southern Miss, who, to be honest, could have easily been 5-7 themselves. So Yeah,
Yeah,
if anyone's local to the Mobile area and wants to go check this game out,
Frank Gore Jr. You got him 1,000-yard back this year.
yeah, so Frank Gore Jr. is a player to watch in this one. Rice has a couple of interesting talents, actually a couple legacies here. So you've got Gabe Taylor as well, who's a defensive back for Rice, and then he's related to Sean Taylor of the Washington Redskins at the time, but obviously a legendary player that we lost too soon. So yeah, there's your one reason to watch this bowl game. If anybody wants to check out the legacy guys going at each other from each.
Southern Miss's quarterback has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns this year.
Yeah,
Both under. He's thrown eight touchdowns, 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions,
yeah.
and that's just not going to get it done.
Yeah, so if any of our fans out there tune into the Lending Tree Bowl, let us know how it goes because I have to admit that I'm probably going to miss this one. All right, moving on to our next one, we've got the Frisco Bowl, which is kind of an interesting matchup here. You have Boise State, who ended up finishing as the runner-up in the Mountain West Conference. They lost to Fresno, who we talked about a little bit earlier, but still a really promising, young, talented team. And then North Texas, another team that played in the Conference USA championship game and got edged out by UTSA. So two pretty talented, skilled teams. The ball just didn't fall their way in that conference championship game, but should be a good matchup.
Yeah, I I think I really like Boise here. Coming out of the Mountain West, I know Conference USA has been getting better, but Boise, um, they're just at this point a stellar Group of Five program, year in and year out. And honestly, their finish this year was kind of surprising as far as they had actually ended up having a pretty solid season because early on in the year, just being connected in the Mountain West a little bit like we are, you would have thought the sky was falling down early in the year in Boise with the Bachmeyer situation, ended up transferring out, and then the team, some alumni bashing him for giving up on the team. You would have thought the whole world was coming to an end with an early loss in the season for Boise. They weren't used to that start, but they ended up turning it around, and as usual, they're a rock solid team coming out of the Mountain West.
Yeah, and just while you mentioned the Conference USA improving, um, yeah, they have. You've got some really good teams coming out of the Conference USA. Unfortunately for the conference, but maybe good for college football. A lot of those teams are actually headed out. This is their last year in the Conference USA. So you've got Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, Rice, UAB, and UTSA all headed to the American Conference next year. So it'll be fun to watch them try to replace Central Florida, Cincy, and Houston, who are all off to the Big 12. So a lot of shakeups there in the Group of Five, and then coming into the Big 12, and then a few, obviously, of the big ones: Oklahoma, Texas to the SEC, USC, UCLA to the Big 10. But yeah, to stay on Boise and North Texas, you've got a couple of teams here. Boise State, they're coming up against a team that's a little bit weak on the rushing game. They do have a really strong Mike linebacker there, KD Davis, who's pictured. I think he's probably their all-time leading tackler for a career, but he's been putting up big numbers there for a few years. But as a whole, the defense struggles with the run, and that's something that Boise State's going to be all over, right? They've got a really strong running back in George Delani, and then their quarterback, Taylon Green, is a strong dual threat. He's a young guy too, but he's got a lot longer to go in college football. He can throw the ball, but he likes to run it as well. So that'll be something that they're going to look to exploit, is get that run game going early and then see if they can beat him over the top a few times too with Taylon Green throwing the rock.
Yeah,
And
Helani's been doing it
thing,
now for a couple years. So
yeah, their head coach, Andy Avalos there at Boise State, it seems like they're constantly successful. They're always making new hires. You had Brian Harsin there and Chris Peterson not long before him. But this is actually Andy Avalos' first season as head coach, and this is his first opportunity for a 10-win season as head coach at Boise. So that's going to be something that they're going to want to do for their coach.
yeah, they've built a culture now that is kind of withstanding our coach, not dependent on the coach, which is impressive and a hard thing to do. I will say, do have to, I don't know what North Texas home game attendance looks like, but this should be pretty much a home game for them in comparison to Boise. But Boise will have some fans that travel down to Frisco. They travel, I mean, as far as group of 5 teams go, they travel fairly well.
Yep, so definitely check this one out if you have a chance. It should be a good matchup. Moving on to our next one, we've got a clean sweep across the board here with the Instagram fans coming in at 78% behind South Alabama. This is a team that had an awesome season this year, and they've continued to get better and better every year. First 10-win regular season in program history, at least since they've joined the FBS, the high level of Division I football. They are a defense-first team. They suffocate the run. Luckily for Western Kentucky, they're not much of a run team. They like to air it out. And their quarterback there, Austin Reed, actually made headlines a few days ago. He entered the transfer portal, but then he has now since revoked that and is coming back to join the Western Kentucky team and take on South Alabama. So that'll be a fun matchup to watch his high-powered passing offense against their tough, stout defense.
Yeah, getting away from the game a little bit, just on that decision, that seems a little strange to come out. Um, just knowing how this system works, whether legal or not, most of these guys kind of already have a feel, some sort of a feel for what that market's going to look like for them on the transfer portal. So I don't know if he's going to, I'd assume he's good to just play in this game and then go back on the transfer portal and try to earn some stock in this game and play one last game with his team. But all these moves and sitting out in the transfer portal, it definitely changes the scope of a bowl game. But I mean, as you can see too, with these group of 5 schools, these guys are going to play in these games because they still matter for these guys.
Yeah, word on the street, just looking at some news stories here recently, is that Austin Reed actually inked a huge NIL deal with the Red Towel Trust, which is a real estate company there that is connected to Western Kentucky, so that you can get a little bit of an idea of motivation there. But good for him. Go make your money. But yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch. South Alabama, like I said, has had kind of unprecedented success. They're going to want to look to cap that off with a big win over another high-profile Group of 5 team. They've got a 1,000-yard rusher there at South Alabama, LaDamian Webb, who's going to look to take advantage of Western Kentucky's porous run defense. It's not one of the better defenses in the country, especially against the run. So
Yeah.
something that South Alabama may look to do. All right, Jared, Easy Post. What is the Easy Post company that's sponsoring the Hawaii Bowl?
Dude, how much money are they paying for these
It
things
can't be
now?
much. I'm going to sponsor my own next year.
I just so everyone is aware, all 6 people out there watching us today, I don't think we're quite financially stable enough to post or to sponsor a bowl game. But just getting into this game a little bit, I just like San Diego State. They're a tough physical team every year in and year out. I just think coming out of the Mountain West, they're going to be too much for Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, and the Instagram fans agree with you. 62% of our voters are saying San Diego State is going to pull out this Hawaii Bowl. San Diego State is a team that's used to traveling to Hawaii, being in the same side of the Mountain West Conference as Hawaii is. So not something to overlook, is that's a pretty brutal travel schedule. Obviously, with bowl games, you get to get on the ground a few days before you would for a typical game. But yeah, that jet lag is definitely something that may come into play with that team. And I'm not sure if they went this year, but definitely within the last 2 years, that San Diego State team has already made that trip. Middle
Yeah, it's a
Tennessee.
lot it's a lot
No, go ahead.
closer. And that time change, I know they'll be out there for more than just a day, so they'll have a chance to get used to it. But that time change is a big deal going out there.
Yeah, and Middle Tennessee State. They've been a team with a lot of highs and a lot of lows this year. So you may remember early on in the season, I mentioned earlier that Marshall took down Notre Dame. Actually, in that same week, Middle Tennessee took down Miami. Obviously, we see now that Miami was not necessarily the team that we thought they were, but at the time they were ranked. But then they racked up losses against bowl eligible teams within their conference. You got UAB, UTSA, James Madison, and Western Kentucky, all good teams. But again, can't expect to be taken too seriously within your conference if you can't beat any of the bowl eligible teams. They'll have to show up after that long trip we were talking about earlier. They're going to bring their A game if they want to take down San Diego State. But I will say San Diego State's been struggling themselves with some inconsistent quarterback play. Jalen Maiden, I personally don't think is going to be able to take down Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee is vulnerable in the pass game on defense. They have a really hard time stopping the pass. But, if you don't have a capable quarterback on the other end, then you're able to kind of highlight your strengths and hide that weakness a little bit. So for Maiden, it's not going to be an easy game for him. They've got a team that's based around pressuring the quarterback. They've got Jordan Ferguson, who's got 9 sacks on the season. And then they've got 2 others that are also above 5 sacks on the season. So they like to pressure the quarterback. They like to make it difficult. A lot of times that's probably why you see holes down in the back end. So it's going to have a lot to do with San Diego State's quarterback, Jalen Maiden.
Inconsistent quarterback play is kind of the story of the last several years for San Diego State. They struggle. They're never super explosive on offense. Those of you who know, they have produced a couple big time running backs over the last few years. But typical pro style, old school I formation offense most of the time. And yeah, they struggle.